Thank you, Ignu, for inviting me to this lecture series. I will talk to you today about the National Education Policy 2020 and especially its focus on the academic research quality. If you look at the section 18 in NEP 2020, it talks about catalyzing quality academic research through a new National Research Foundation. So NRF is something what NEP is proposing. And I must tell you that NEP is one of the most transformational policy that we are getting after a very, very long time, after over 3 decades, this policy has come. And the genuine focus on the Indian knowledge systems and research is very important. I'll touch upon some of these subjects during my talk of about 30 minutes. As all of us know, we have a long historical tradition of research and knowledge creation, especially in science, technology, humanities, art and literature, medicine and agriculture. And we can go on naming several scholars from ancient India, not only the inventor of zero, but the Kanad, who also talked about basics of physics and the Aryabhatta, Varamira, and Chanakya, Panini, and Patanjali, Charak, Sushrut. The list is very long. So the research and innovation tradition was there in Bharat, I would say, because when we talk about India, we start thinking about India only after 1947. But we have a history of thousands of years. So Bharat and Bharatiya Gyan Parampara is something which we have to really consider at the backdrop when we are talking about research in 21st century. There is no doubt that India or Bharat actually, and that's why Prime Minister has appealed us for Atmanirbhar Bharat. And Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have to also regain Atma Sanman. And regaining Atma Sanman for Atmanirbhar Bharat requires to learn from our heritage, our culture, our tradition, and take them forward with the current science and technology for innovation. So we need to really reclaim our tradition to emerge as a knowledge society and also emerge as a stronger economy in the world. Because without research and innovation, this is not possible. A significant expansion of our research capacities and output across disciplines is very, very vital. For instance, if I may just quote, which is there in NEP 2020, it says that, or it's rather gives some figures, the research and innovation investment in India has been very, very small. For instance, just 0.69% of the GDP. And if you compare with the other countries, example, United States is about 2.8%, China is about 2.1%, Israel is about 4.3%, South Korea, a smaller country, much smaller country, is spending something like 4.2%, almost 3 to 4 times more than what we are spending. So the establishment of National Research Foundation comes as a very prominent hope to move in the right direction because the overarching goal of NRF is to enable a culture of research to permeate through our universities, because the culture of research has to permeate through our universities, especially the state universities and public institutions where research capability is currently limited. And we have to provide a very reliable base of merit-based, at the same time equitable peer review research funding to help develop this kind of a research culture in our institutions. If you look at the research output and its impact, and if you take a kind of a span overview from 1996 to 2010 as the first step, and if you take data from Web of Science or Scopus, these are the most reputed search engines, you will find that India trails behind. India trails behind even of smaller countries like Japan or United Kingdom or Germany. US, of course, is one of the top in the list, but India still trails even behind China. India is trailing behind China. And this is something which we have to work on very, very seriously. I am a biomedical research scientist, and therefore my talk, I will be taking examples from biomedical research, But while I take examples of biomedical research, what I'm telling you is true to many other disciplines as well. For instance, if you compare countries like, say, India, America, China, and Germany, and biomedical research output, if you get data, which we call it as cytometric data from this scopus, still you will find that India trails behind. And while during last decade, I would say that the efforts from Indian scientific community are showing now internationally, and therefore our position is becoming stronger and stronger, still we have a long way to go. While we talk about research now, I will say something about what is the current status. If I take example of biomedical research, let me tell you that somehow in our country, at least, the research has been going on more on the lines of routine, if I may say so, because there is a very less component of originality and innovation. For example, in medical sciences, if you look at, what kind of original contributions have come from medical sciences from India, if we ask this question, we have to really search very hard. For instance, new molecules, new drugs, how many of them have come from India? The number may be very, very small as compared to many other countries, So this, at the same time, if we look at the potential and knowledge which we have is enormous, but somehow there is disconnect. We are looking at our own heritage just to take pride, and taking pride in past glory is important, but we should not really become kind of sitting back and we just saying that when somebody else invents something, we knew it and it is there in our old text. We should use our ancient knowledge as a knowledge resource and build on that new research, innovative research, and move on and show the world that this is what Bharatiya Gyan Parampara had, which world did not know. And now we are coming out with the new science and technology. In medicine, for instance, the plastic surgery, all of us know, is documented in Indian subcontinent. Even during British period, there has been systematic documentation when the community of Kumars used to do this plastic surgery very, very efficiently, especially the transplantation of nose, because during olden period, chopping of nose was considered as the dehumiliating punishment that was given at that time. So nose transplantation or implantation was very, very necessary. So there is a detailed process which is given. So we don't have to go back to Sushruta period. Of course, Sushruta is considered to be one of the pioneers or founders of surgery, of modern surgery in India. So I can give you more and more such examples, but let's look at what is happening in modern science today globally. One of the most reputed journal, all of you may have heard, is Lancet. It's one of the most reputed biomedical journal, and Lancet came out with a series. And in that series, one of the most reputed scientists from Stanford, his name is John Ioannidis, and he published a series of articles and in which he showed that 85% of the research that goes in biomedical research is wasted actually. That means it is of no use. Research, if it is not going to be useful for people, what kind of research we are doing? Research just for sake of research is not going to be beneficial for our country especially. We have to invest in research which will be practically useful and get back to something to the society. So this kind of a wastage in research is happening because of several reasons. Primarily, we don't ask right questions. Asking right research question is the first step, which we don't invest much time in that. Most of our studies or many of our studies may be badly designed and therefore they are not publishable or reported properly in the reputed journals. So I would say that creativity and scientific research should be for search of truth, creating new body of knowledge. And it is about pleasure. We should take pleasure in doing research. It should be about our own devotion, our own commitment, and never-ending quest for innovation. And research should not be used merely for the purpose of publications. It is not some kind of a race. I have to become from associate professor to professor, therefore I have to publish. It should not be converted into some kind of a desperation to publish, which we witness today, because today research is more is happening because I want to do PhD, because PhD will open me doors for getting job in the universities or academic institution. Or we do research to get recognition. In my name prefix, doctor will come and I will get more recognition in the society. These are not the reasons for doing research. Socio-economic benefits, obviously as expected from research, but they should be natural outcomes. The first purpose of research should be in search of truth and creating new body of knowledge. But somehow what happened is during last, especially 3-4 decades, slowly the erosion in terms of what I would like to call it academic integrity was very, very visible in our country, and especially it was more visible during the last 2 decades, and I will just talk about some of these cases. So I'll also discuss some of the plagiarism incidences which happened in India. And all this actually tarnishes image of our country. And therefore, I'm stressing more on academic integrity and publication ethics and the issues related to plagiarism in our country. I come from Pune University. So I remember while I was at Pune University in 1992 to 1994, one of the most debated case of plagiarism was unearthed. And that case in court went on up to 2018, finally, when High Court gave a verdict and the two senior professors were actually sacked from their service. Senior professors were sacked from their service. In 1996, another case happened in the same university, and this is just, I'm giving you a few examples, but in every university you will find that such cases exist, and if you really go deep into why this is happening and why people become so desperate to publish, why people tend to take shortcuts, unfortunately, I must mention that the root cause of that goes in regulation. And while I am saying that, I'll also going to give you some examples. For instance, and all these regulations, I must tell you that were made with good intentions, but somehow people try to misuse them, and try to find shortcuts. First, I will give an example of UGC regulation. While I was at UGC, we have discussed this thoroughly, and therefore I am frankly sharing with you. UGC regulation 2010, which talked about API, academic performance indicators. They gave a certain amount of weightage to national publications, international publications, etc., national conferences, international So there is nothing like international publication or national publication or international journal or national journal. Journals are based on the quality of journal, not whether they are national or international. For example, current science, although published in India, is an international journal, and there could be several journals which are named as international journal, global journals, world journals. They may not be even worth considering that they are journals, So somehow we created at that time a culture called as publish or perish, and that created a compulsion or desperation to publish. And while it was again considered in good spirit or for good purpose, well-meaning, still it led to in 2018 UGC regulation about academic integrity. One of the very good regulation which UGC came forward, which talks about first time the plagiarism, how to handle it, how to do similarity check, how to avoid plagiarism, what could be the punishments about plagiarism, what are the levels of acceptability of similarity, and etc. etc. And during the same time, while I was not at UGC, I was at Pune University. We did a study. UGC had come out with a list of approved list of journals, and we actually analyzed that list, and we showed in 2018 that 88% of the journals which were in the approved list of UGC were predatory or dubious, and this was shocking. And this was bringing all kind of bad reputation to our country. Journals like Science and Nature wrote editorials and articles showing that how maximum more and more number of Indian authors are falling prey to these predators. And it was really very, very awkward situation for all. There were questions in the parliament, and that time minister also asked a question in the Vice Chancellor conference that I heard that now we are going to also consider Chanda Mama and Champak as research journalists. I mean, this kind of a situation was there. When I joined UGC, my first priority was to fix this. And therefore, uh, you will see that the UGC care came in force. And I'll talk about it little later. But UGC care really try to fix this in a video. So I'll come again back to the desperation to publish. Again, I will repeat that temptation to taking shortcut is not advisable. Publication or PhD thesis is not for name and fame, for position and authority, for in some kind of foreign tours or committee membership or grants and funds or promotions or academic elections or increments. No, these are all coincidental. They should not be our purpose. And the predatory publishing, we witnessed during last especially during last 10-15 years, and when we try to curb that by creating well-meaning mechanisms such as the UGC list of approved journals, etc. I would tell you that the API for promotion and eligibility condition focus on compliance. When we give regulation, the focus becomes on compliance, and the compliance focus tempts people to take shortcuts, and therefore pay and publish culture emerged. And all these journals, which were created, and you will be surprised, and you may know also, many of these journals actually are fake. They don't have whatever they show on the website. The information is actually not correct. The names of the editors which we put in may not even exist. So practically, it became like a Nigerian lottery scam. And all of a sudden, you also may have noticed, many of you may have noticed that during 2010-15, many of us started getting emails saying that we recognized your academic excellence and all, and so therefore you are requested to come on our editorial board. And name of these journals were very fancy: International Journal of XYZ, Global Journal, and all that kind of stuff. And many of us at that time have fallen prey to this kind of a gimmick. So pay and publish trash culture was very, very essential to curb, and therefore we converted the approved list to a reference list of quality journals. So today you see on the UGC website or CARE website, what we give is reference list of quality journals. So it is up to you. UGC, why UGC should decide which journals are good and bad? It is up to the academic fraternity. It is about the university. When somebody is giving interview, it is the job of the selection committee and the vice chancellor to see at the micro level whether the quality of research work is good, and not only where that person has published it. So the responsibility we have put, or the onus we have put back on the university academic leadership, because if we try to regulate, I remember the Cobra effect. You may know that during British period in Delhi, this is known as Cobra effect. There were too many cobras in that area, and so British government announced a prize. If somebody kills a cobra and bring the dead cobra, they used to get some money. And then the result was, initially cobras, genuinely people were catching, killing, and getting a reward. But then people found out that there is a good economic model, business model in it, and they started actually cultivating cobras, and cultivating cobras and then killing them and then getting the money. So this kind of a cultivating cobras, today the same model was used by predatory publishers. They came out with more and more such bad journals, and they tried to lure the academic community and actually sold these publications. And it went to such an extent that if somebody wants to improve API of last year, journals were ready. And even today, some of them are ready to improve your API by giving you backdated publications also. So we made a mockery of this scientific research and publications, and therefore academic misconduct became very, very important, handling that. Typically, academic misconduct is a data fabrication, falsification of results, or misleading research subjects, or conflicts of interest hiding conflicts of interest. These are some of the important challenges we have to really address, and most of the key drivers, if you look at why this kind of academic misconduct is happening, the key drivers are competition. I want to become professor. I want to become highest cited somebody, all these competition, the priority claims. I want to do it first before somebody else do it, for prestige, for high achievements, for high value, commercial gains, inadequate. So there are several. So a culture of honesty and integrity is needed to maintain the highest standards of ethical practice and behavior. Increasing pressure or desperation to publish resulted in a rapid increase in the number of research publications in predatory journals, and that brought a lot of disreputation to our country. Policies and procedures for ensuring good research practices are needed, and violations of any good practice must be addressed in a fair, timely, and transparent fashion. And we hope that with this National Research Foundation, all this will be fixed more effectively. The underlying values are also important. Ethics, safeguard dignity, rights, safety, and privacy of researchers, participants in the researchers, the rigor of research, which ensures high quality in design, reliable data and appropriate methodology, rigorous and careful analysis, the transparent reporting and interpretation in the results, or proper interpretation of the results without getting temptation to overblow whatever we have observed. The relevance is also important. The environment and ecosystem, the public and global good, the science and society. What relevance my research is to the society? This question always has to be back of our mind. And transparency. Honesty will be promoted through transparency in a fair, full, and unbiased fashion. Respect also is important, aligned with the norms and traditions of society and its cultural heritage. The independence, because we have to insulate research from the undue influence of funders. Just because somebody is funding doesn't mean that they should influence. And there are references even today that most of the clinical research which has happened, most of the time the results have gone in favor of the funders. So these are the issues, ethical issues, which we must address. Accountability becomes also important. Comply with relevant rules and procedures such as regulations of governing professional standards is also important. There are several websites and several, I would say, resources which are available. For example, Committee on Publication Ethics, commonly known as COPE, gives excellent resources for publication ethics. The publication misconduct, actually, as I told you, is fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research, or in reporting research results as well. Typically, plagiarism is appropriation of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credit. And now we are also hearing the terms like guest authors, host authors, gift authorship, conflicts of interest. All this comes under the publication ethics. Again, I'm not going to go in more details, but the predatory journal, I must give credit to Jeffrey Bial, with whom I had pleasure of interacting. Jeffrey Bial used to come out with a Bial's list of predatory journals, and I was part of a international exercise where we'll develop a definition of what predatory journal is, and our article was published in Nature main edition, and those who are interested can really refer to that article in Nature. So while on one side, during last decade, our image was tarnished in the international community regarding publication ethics, plagiarism, and academic misconduct in this decade, we have seen to it that through efforts like CARE, the international community has started looking at it more seriously and also appreciating, our efforts. But still, the cases continue. If you look at Retraction Watch, Retraction Watch has about 32,000 retractions. Remember, retraction meaning after you publish something, if somebody points out some deficiencies or some misconduct in your research, that article is withdrawn by the journal which has published it earlier. So retraction is most humiliating. And you will find that today in the database, 32,000 retraction exists. So you can imagine the extent of this academic integrity compromise. And out of these, about 211 are related to COVID. So just during last 2 years, 220 articles have been withdrawn, which are reported in Retraction Watch. I was very unhappy, actually hurt and saddened to also read one of the recent case which was published in Retraction Watch, in which a PhD student, remember, PhD student has written actually that I need a publication in order to submit my thesis. And for that purpose, the author has admitted stealing of a manuscript from somebody else's work. And all this was exposed by the Retraction Watch website, and you will find that data available at their website. While at UGC, we had to make one criminal complaint in Delhi police because one of the companies was actually selling PADs. And selling PADs means, unfortunately, they had made a PAD also. If you want a good PhD, X is a price. If you want a moderately better PhD, Y price. If you want a very good PhD, this is the price. And the price range was starting from 4,000 rupees for publication to 50,000, 1 lakh rupee for PhD. Now, what is this we are doing, friends? We are making mockery of it. Please let me tell you that if you are tempted to this kind of a shortcut to publish in predatory journals, your entire academic career will be ruined. And please don't do that. You may have made that mistake. Please don't even cite your predatory publications in your biodata, because today at the highest level, when people look at the biodata, if they see that publications from such dubious journals are there, you will lose your chance even to get called for interview. So this is a very serious business, and UGC as a regulatory body has looked into it very carefully. And the Consortium for Academic and Research Ethics, please visit that website and see. You can also read my worldview article in Nature, which is also available now on the Nature website. As UGC, we took what in management they call it as CAPA, CAPA, corrective and preventive action. The purpose of CAPA is to collect information, analyze information, identify and investigate product and quality problems, and take appropriate and effective corrective and preventive action to prevent its recurrence in the past. Normally, CAPA principle is used in pharmaceutical industry, but we use the same principle in academic world. And CAPA is an overall effort to investigate and correct quality issues to prevent recurrence, and the care is one of the prominent outcome. All of you must also visit UGC website to see guideline document which we have published, known as Good Academic Research Practices. This was published in September 2030 in collaboration with one of the reputed science database company called Clarivate, which publishes Web of Science and many other. The impact factor also belongs to them, actually. So in short, I will end by saying that again, creativity and scientific research is for search of truth, creation of new body of knowledge. It is also about pleasure, devotion, and never-ending quest for innovation. Please don't reduce it down to about only game of publication or race, or please don't get desperate, or to get recognitions just for research should not be based on all these parameters. As I mentioned, socio-economic benefits are also very vital, but they should be natural outcomes of your research. With this, I will end my talk again by thanking IGNOU and Professor Nageshwar Rao, who is one of the good friends and colleagues, who is very efficiently handling Vice Chancellor of IGNOU, for conducting this kind of exciting lecture series to expedite implementation of one of the most transformational policy which we have received from Dr. Kasturi Rangan, National Education Policy 2020. With this, I wish you all the best, and Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.